Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning.
Sir, Tanya will open the session, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Over to you, Tanya. You can start it, Bachi.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. I, Tanya Gupta, welcome you all to another week of BVI Camp Professional Training Program. I would like to repeat some of the points which have already been discussed among us. It is compulsory to maintain 75% attendance to get the certificate. Daily attendance have been uploaded, so it is advisable to all those participants to maintain it now who all have less than 75%. Half an hour separate doubt session are conducted with the mentor after every class, and all your doubts are also taken up over WhatsApp group by Kajal ma'am immediately. Also, we have shared you all the codes through GitHub. Moreover, cheat sheets are uploaded on all social media handles. We have uploaded all the videos of session on our BVI Camp YouTube channel. And yesterday's test result will be declared in the evening. For any query, contact our team members. So happy studying, guys. Let's welcome our mentor to start our session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Tanya. Good morning, guys. So today we are first completing the Node.js stuff and we are going to start the Express today. So first of all, just a quick recap. We have done so many things in a Node.js. We worked about something called third-party thing, that is Chalk. And we also use something called FS. So we also worked with some streams, right? So today we are going to first start with how to create our own modules, because we are using some third-party modules like a Chalk. So how we can create our own module and how we can publish the own module on NPM, right? So we are going to cover these things first of all. So first thing is how to create our own module. So creating your own modules so you can publish it over the NPM. So first thing is you need to just go to this npmjs.com. That is the first thing. And on this website, you are able to see there is a something called, let's say Chalk we have used. That's a third party one. Chalkidar we have used. So these kind of modules are available there. And there are a lot of modules. So how I can publish my own module here on NPM? So how I can build my own module? So the first thing is, whenever you want to publish your module, you need to search that name would not be present, right? So let's say I'm saying I want to create some math calculator and I want to search this thing if this name is exist or not. So it will respond me this thing is there or not. So it is saying math calc when I'm writing. So there is nothing called math calc, right? So the initials are there, but so I will say math calc 2020. So this is not present, right? So I will create a project with the name of math calc 2020, and this project I will push it on this NPM, right? So first thing is you need to create a folder here. So I create a folder called math calc 2020. So this is the name of my project, and inside it, the first thing is you need to just go to the terminal section here, and from the terminal you will write math calc 2020, and from here I will write something called npm init. We already covered this thing in a previous class. Npm init is basically used to initialize your project. It will create a packet.json, and packet.json contain the meta information of your project. So when you write this npm init, so it will ask some of the questions. So like it is asking, so I just show you this thing. So it is asking the first thing, that is what is the name of your package? So it is the same name, so I press enter. What is the version? I want to keep it 1.0. The description, this is a sample module, right? And entry point, it is important. It means if your project has a lot of JavaScript files, so which one is acting like a main file, right? Which one will be like a main file? So it could be index.js, or either in my case, I will use app.js. Test command is if you are going to use any testing framework for doing unit testing, then you need the test command. So right now we are not using do enter. Git repository, if your code is going to push on a Git, so we have a separate Git session, then we will learn how to use a Git. So right now we do not have any Git repository there where the code is present. So I just press enter. Keywords, it means if anyone search of this application, so how it will search. So we will say math, Kelsey, these are become the keywords. Author, let's say I will say Amit, and license by default ISC, you can use MIT license. There are a lot of licenses. So I use, is this okay? Yes. So if I do this thing, it will create a packet.json file. So if we just go to the thing called Meth Kelsey, this one, it has this file packet.json, and it has the relevant information. It has a name, version, description, main is the entry point, the scripts. If I have the scripts, keywords, author, and license. So this is get created. Now the point is how I can create my own module. So creating my module, I will use something. Let's say I'm saying in my module, I am going to do some calculations. So I will say calc.js, and inside it, I will create an object calc, and I just make it curly bracket. So the object is get created. And inside it, let's say I'm just saying xy, and I'm saying if x value is not present, y value is not present. So do not treat it undefined, treat it 0. So this will become a default parameter. And inside this default parameter, I will say return x plus y. So if I have the value, so the default parameter is get override with my value. If the value is not present, then it will take 0, right? Then I just go to the subtract section, and inside it the same thing. So it means I am doing some calculation stuff. So it means I am writing the pure JavaScript here, right? Once this thing is done, then I will say module dot exports, right? And I will say calc. So it means this is my calc application. And suppose this calc application is going to trigger from the file called app.js. So in this app.js, I want to trigger everything. So I will say const calc require and /calc. So from here, I want to trigger everything. So let's say I will say calc.add, and here I pass the values. Calc.subtract, here I want to pass some values. So whatever the result is coming, so it will give the calculation result. So I can wrap this thing inside some function. So I will say compute is my name of a function, which is going to do this stuff, right? Or either I can pass some parameter here inside it, right? Again, it will treat it as 0. And I will pass x and y parameter here, right? So I have some basic logic of my module. So this logic can be complex. It's based on the depend on an application to application, and it is going to return some results. So I will say it has the result of this. It has the result of result 2. So 2 results are coming up. So these 2 results I will wrap inside an object called result. So result contain result and result 2 contain result 2, right? So even if I'm not using like in key and value pair, if I even use result and result 2, it is okay. Internally it will create a key with a result name, and it has the value, right? So I have the object, and I'm going to return this object. So when I'm using return result, so result is become a key, and the value of the result is become the value. Same as result 2 is become a key, and result 2 value is become a value. So that there's a shorthand of creating an object. Once I've done this thing, so I will say module dot exports equals to compute. Make sense? So it means from here I specify module dot exports equals to compute. So this is a name of my module, right? And I am exporting this module. So let's say I want to test this thing. I want to test this stuff. Is this thing is working or not? So testing this stuff, because this is my module, so it is wrapped inside some folder. So I will create a folder which is responsible to test this module. So I just go here. I just go outside this folder first of all. So I just go here and create a new folder, test math calc, right? So this is my folder. It's a separate folder, right? And I want to test this thing. So for testing, I will say call.js. So this is a call.js who is responsible to call this module. The module name is math calc. So this is what we are doing, a consumption of local module. So it means this is treated as a local module. I want to consume this thing. So to consume it, I will write const and I will say mathcalc equals to require, and inside the require, because right now I am in test mathcalc, so I will write dot slash. So it means I will move back to test mathcalc, and from here I will specify something called mathcalc. Make sense? So it means I have this mathcalc. Now the problem starts because I am writing mathcalc. So mathcalc has two files. If you just see, it has two files, app.js or calc.js. So which I want to call. So either I need to specify app. Now the problem for it is now a problem for another module developer who has to remember you have the app file or you have a calc.js. So the point is app.js is your, it is your module file, and you know I created a calc, right? But if you are an outside module developer, so you are not interested to see this app file I want to call. That is a problem, right? So how to remove this problem? It means if I write only the module name, so it is more precise, like when I use chalk. When I use a chalk, so it means I require a chalk. Chalk can have plenty of files. So, but I am, as a caller, I am not interested to see which file I need to call, right? So that's why I need to maintain some abstraction. So it means when I use a module name, that is enough for me. So when I use a module name, it will look up automatically which file has to be called. But in our case, it would not. So how it will identify which file has to be called? The answer is when we use this main, right? When we use this main app.js, so it means when I only specify this thing, that is mathcalc 2020, so it will go in the packet.json file. So it will go here in the packet.json file, and it will look up for this name main. And from the main, it will identify which one is the main file. I hope you understand this thing. So if you not maintain this main tag, now the problem starts. You need to specify the file name. And as a developer, you are interested in only in your module development. You're not interested in other modules development. Think about, you're using FS. You're not interested. FS is written in which JS file. You're using chalk. You're not interested. Chalk code is written in which JS file. You are only interested in to call it, right? So same here. If your module is consumed by some other guy, so it is only interested is to call the module. That's it. So when you specify mathcalc, so you will specify a thing called mathcalc dot with the method, that is, I think, compute. It is there. So when we go in this this thing, that is a compute one, right? So this compute I am going to consume. So I export what? I export this function only, right? So this mathcalc is treated like a compute because it's not an object. So from here I will specify the parameters. So when I specify the parameter, I will get the result. So I will get a result of obj, and I want to print what is coming in this obj. So I will say obj. Makes sense? So it means when I use require mathcalc, it will go in a packet.json. It will look up for the main file. Main file is the app.js. So it will go in a app.js. From the app.js, it has the compute method. This compute is exported. So it means this mathcalc is become a function because that function is get exported. So what we will get? We will get a function. So that's why I just call it. So when I just call it, it will be go here and it will going to call compute, right? So compute is get called. Once compute is get called, it will give a result, and the result is coming in which form? The result is coming in form of the object, and I will get an object and I'm going to print this object. So it means I am consuming a local module. So it means I have not exported yet on NPM. I just consume it by my own, right? So if I want to consume it by my own, so I will say, I just go cd dot going to cd test mathcalc. I am here, and from here I will specify node and the name of file, that is a call.js. When I call this thing, it will say this. I hope everyone understand this thing. So I return result and result2. So result and result2 become key, and the value is 300 and minus 100. So that's the shortcut of creating an object. Any question, guys, so far? So you can raise. Because right now we are moving to the server side coding stuff. So if you have any questions. So Ritik is asking, if we create a login up page, if we click on create account button, so can you explain the behind the codes? Definitely. Ritik, this is in our agenda. But right now the point is, if you don't understand how to create one module, how to consume the module, that would be very bigger issue, because a login screen we are going to create anyway, because in React we are doing the designing stuff of everything, creating a component. So we'll go on a React site, design the page, and we are going to cover today the Express. Express is entirely for doing the web development stuff. So Node is primarily focused on, so think about the bigger picture. I want to show you how we are proceeding and why this is so much important. The point is, in a practical world, when you're going to create any web application, so web application is a bigger giant. Think about if you want to create a shopping, right? So shopping is not a kiddish job. It is a very, very big project, right? And I just want to communicate, it is a web application, right? And web application is basically when you're going to create a shopping. So shopping has a segment called customer segment. So when you're talking about the login screen, so it is pretty much complicated screen to build in a realistic scenario. In a kiddish way, when I just want to check the user ID and password, it is just a kiddish way to create it. But in practical world, it would not work. In a practical world, the shopping has a customer, shopping can have the sellers, shopping can have the administrator, shopping can have the delivery boys, right? Now the point is, when you're doing a login, now the question mark start. When you log in it, for example, you are going to log in with a user called Ram and the password is 123. Now the first question in your mind, is this Ram is a customer, or is this a seller, or is this an admin, or is this a delivery boy? Makes sense? If it is a customer, the options will become like a customer. If it is seller, the option will become like a seller. If it is an admin, the option show in a page, that is the admin option. If it is a delivery boy, so it means delivery boy options are coming. The password, it means whatever the password you are going to store, the password must be the encrypted. It means if somebody is going to open the database, so it would not be able to see the password of Ram. Makes sense? Ram only know I have the password 123, but in the backend in the database side, it would not. Now the challenges, what sort of challenges I want to show you, because if you are only working on this thing, right? It means this is what? This is a login. And in login, I am just going to divide two things. That is, one is the authentication system. One is the authentication system and one is the authorization system. So there are two things, authentication and authorization. Authentication is just checking your user ID and password, and authorization says who are you? You are a customer or seller or admin or delivery boy. So can I say there would be a module who is responsible to do the user stuff. It means user create, user login, user profile checking, right? User account deletion, right? Your user profile updation. So there are plenty of things. That's why you, as a developer, so for example, if Ritik is going to handle the user module, so he's a developer for user module. So he's going to create a folder that contain only the user stuff. And somebody, for example, if I am a seller and I am responsible, I am a developer for seller things. So I will call his module, do the login. So as a seller, I have the creation, I have the login feature, I have the profile feature, I have the account deletion, I have the profile updation, all of the features. Plus I have the feature called selling the products, uploading of the products. I hope everyone understands. It means we are dividing our application into small modules, and these modules are going to be interact. And that is only an answer by the Node.js. So Node.js says you can create your modules, you can give it to some other developer, so other developer can consume it. So if we don't understand how to use the module, so the problem will start. Make sense? I hope guys you understand. Yeah.
Sir, how we create a new window after clicking on the create account button or otherwise on
Pardon? How we?
So how we open a new window in a HTML page after clicking on create account button?
So that is a JavaScript method. So window.open is a method to open up any window.
My question is that actually, so
that is only the window.open. But the thing is, that is much easier thing. I am right now talking about the modules. Somehow as a students, because you are a very fresher, so you only like those things which is more on the output side, right? Like opening a window or doing some animation, these kind of stuff. Most of these things are built by the APIs. But what I am going to focus is how you can create your own modules. It means if your target is after the MERN stack thing, your target is to build a project. So to build up a project, anyhow, you need to understand how I can divide my whole application into the modules. That's why we are first learning the module stuff. That's why I'm not first telling about how to use the Express, because Express at the end is a module, right? Chalk at the end is a module. Makes sense? So it means you are actually creating your module, and it is you're consuming your module, right? I hope everyone understand why this is important thing for us.
Okay, sir.
So Chowkidar we will cover, because Chowkidar is somehow is just a module, because we are going to cover a lot of modules. That is a predefined one. Make sense? Yogesh is saying how to create new module. Yogesh, I think you late join, I hope. So to create a module, I just create a folder, and inside it I will do npm init. So npm init will create this packet.json, and I just write the logic. So it means the logic can be anything. So when I write a logic, the point is how I can consume this module, because it's a project and I want to consume it in somewhere. So if I want to consume it, I have the packet.json file. Inside the packet.json file, I have the entry of main. So I have the entry of this main, right? So when I have this entry of this main file, just a minute. So when I have the entry of this main file, main has this app.js. It means if somebody like this call.js, it is going to call this folder. It is called math.calc. So it means it is using require math.calc. So it is going to consume this folder. Now the point is, in this folder can have njs file, right? It can have njs file. So as a consumer, because I'm going to consume it. So think about, if you are a consumer, you are not least interested in how this module is get created by somebody else, because you are going to consume it anyway, right? So it means, for example, you are building some seller feature. So you are less important is how this login stuff will work. It means how the user stuff will work. So as a consumer, I will consume only the folder, right? I am going to consume a folder. So this folder is treated like a module for us. So it means I'm going to consume this folder, and when I'm going to consume this folder actually give me the detail which file would be the first file. It means in our case, app.js is a first file. So this first file, how I will get it by using the thing called packet.json. So when I use this packet.json stuff, so this is an entry of main, right? So main says your first file is going to be trigger is app.js. So if we call.js require this folder. When it requires this folder, it will look up the main file from the packet.json. That's why the packet.json is really important. And app.js when we write this app.js, so it means it will go in the app.js. App.js internally call calc.js. So we will get at the end the calc.js thing. So it means if we just go here, it is going to consume compute. Compute is going to consume calc, right? Because it is using this require. And at the end, we are getting a result from the calc. I hope, Yogesh, I answer your question, how to consume a module and how to build a module, right? So there is another question, if there are multiple exports in app.js. Yes, of course, there would be in multiple exports. So if you have multiple exports here, so the thought process is, for example, I have another function. Think about, I have another function. So recommendation is function, and I will say there is a function, let's say test, right? So there is another function, and it will say console.log I am test, right? Bhavya is asking what is module.export. So just learn the English thing. In module is what? Module is a collection of so many JS files, because you're packing it into. Export is what? Like if you heard about the word called import and export in English. So export means you make it public. It means you are exporting it so anyone can consume it. That's why there is a word called export. So it means you are exporting what? You're exporting a module, right? So it means you can have so many functions. So you can export so many functions. There's a one thing, or otherwise you can do this in this way, const, and you will say const object curly bracket, and then you will say compute comma test. Makes sense? So it means you are actually doing what? You are creating an object, because somebody asked this question, how to do a multiple export. So there is a one option, compute comma test. I wrap it everything inside an object. So what I will do, I will just say this thing. So at the end, I am exporting what? I'm exporting a one object, and this object can have plenty of functions. So like it has a compute and test, two functions. So when I done this thing, the point is in the calling part, the calling part is get change. So I just make it comment just for your reference purpose. What is the old code? So the new code is const obj equals to require, and I will say meth calc. So you will get an object, right? So it would be a const. So it would be a const obj. So at the end, what you have both of the functions. So if you have both of the functions, so can I write this thing obj dot compute, and I will pass 1020. So it will give a result. Make sense? So it means I call this compute function and it is going to return the result. So when it is going to return a result, so I will say console.log, and whatever the result is coming, I will show this result. Another thing is I will say obj.test. So if I just go to the obj.test, so if I click on this, it is going to do console.log. Make sense? I hope I answer your question how to export multiple things. So that's a one way. There is another way to do the same stuff. So first I run this thing, so you understand how this is working. So I will say node, and I will say call.js. You have the result. Now suppose if you don't want to put everything in an object, right? So if you don't want to put everything in an object, so for example, if I just go inside the thing called, I just go in this calc.js, right? Not in calc.js, sorry, in app.js. So if I don't want to do this stuff, so I just comment it out. So I don't want to wrap everything in an object. So the another way is you can use module dot export, because export itself is an object. Because somebody's also asked about a difference in default export and module dot export. So if you're using something called export, so it means I just give you with an example. First of all, I just show this thing. So module dot export a, if I specify this thing, and from here I will say compute. Then I will say module dot exports dot b, because when you use exports, it is giving an object. So you can check this thing here. So if I just open our terminal, let's say this one. Suppose I just go here, and from here, if I just go in this section and I write node, and if you write something called module dot, so if you just write module, so it is a bigger object, right? It has so many things. It has something called exports, right? So if you use module dot export, so you will see it is by default is a blank object. So you can check it out, type of module dot exports, right? So I use this module dot export, so it seems it's an object. So if it is an object, so what I'm doing it here, I'm doing when I specify dot a. So when I specify something called dot a, so it means I am creating a key. Same here, I will create another key called dot b. I hope you understand this thing. So if you want to do a multiple export, so the point number is when you're using multiple exports, so you have a one object, but you're creating what? You're creating multiple keys. So there is a key called A which contain compute. There is a key called B which contain test. I hope guys you understand this thing. So you have two choices, either line number 13 choice, 13 and 16, and either you have this choice. But the bottom line is I create an object, then I override it. But here I have not override a new object. I use the same object and I just put a keys, and the keys name is dot A or dot B. If you have any question guys so far, so please ask in this. So I hope everyone understand. Right. So the point is, if I consume, now the question is how I can consume this thing. To consume this thing, the point is I have the object, but the call, I just commented out this call. The call will be get changed. The call is changed console.log obj.a. Make sense? And then obj.b. So A is become compute, B is become this thing. Make sense, guys? Is this clear, guys? So if I run this thing, I'll just show you the output, the exact output.
Which one is better, sir?
For my point of view, it's just a point of view, right? So it is not a point of view the betterment, because otherwise otherwise Node would not provide it. The point of view is, if you know already, like the point is, if you know you are going to have these objects, I mean there is one object and then you are putting everything. It means you have everything. I mean you have compute, you have test, all the functions you have. But if it is these things are, I mean these A and B are going to be create on a dynamic basis. It means, for example, this code would be in some if condition. If this if condition is there, then this key is assigned. Make sense? This key is get assigned only and only this case. But this is what it means. It is not under the some if condition. It means all the things I want to put it at the end in the object. So it means if you are very much sure, you are going to wrap all the functions, all the variables inside the object, then go for this 15 line number. But if you're not sure, either I have A key or either I have B key or either I have C key, and that would be coming on this dynamic way. So I use this approach. So it means I'm saying if 10 is greater than 2, so it's just a fake condition, but it is going to create a A key. Otherwise, it is going to create a B key. Makes sense? So you can use this approach because you are going to create a key on a dynamic basis. But here you are wrapping up everything. It means you wrap everything inside this object. It means you are very much sure you have 5 functions and you at the end you want to wrap it inside an object, then go for line number 15 style. I hope I answer your question.
Sir, if that's the case, then we can create multiple objects and then we can just export them. Why using a key?
You can export.
Let's say we have made const object equal to compute and const object to equal to test. And as per your condition, if 10 is greater than 2, we can easily say modulo exports is equal to object.
But the point is, this is the only one point of direction you are saying. I am saying if you have function, then you have an array, then I hope you understand my point. If you have an object, then you have the key and value. But if you do not have, you have the functions, you have the array, and you want to export it, you need to create a key. Make sense? Is this clear? That's why the compute is what? Compute is a function. So I just wrap it inside what? Inside a key, right? Same, the test is what? It's a function. That's why I wrap it inside a B. But if it is an object, so because object by default has, it means by default the object has this key and value pair. So that's why at the end I'm providing this object. Make sense?
It will act as value of A.
Of course, because the point is, if you understand the base fundamental, when you use the thing called module.exports, what is it? What it will give? When you use this export, what it will give? It will give an object, which is an empty object, right? So it means when you're using this module.export, so it is an empty object. And when you use .a, so it means A is become a key and compute is become a value, right? So compute is a function. So it means A is a key. So it means when I write the thing called obj.a, so at the end I am calling what? I am calling compute. Make sense?
Yes,
but
sir.
if you're not providing this thing, think about it. If you're not providing this thing, what will happen?
Empty object return karega.
No, so it will actually override this object into a function. Think about this thing. It is basically the JavaScript syntax I'm using. Think about, I just go to the console section, right? Then you will understand. Think about blank. So for example, I have this object, right? So I just give a name called exports, then it makes sense. So I have this object called exports, which is an empty object by default. And now I am saying I have a function test. And I'm saying console.log, I am a test, right? And you already know JavaScript is loosely typed. JavaScript is loosely typed. So if I say type of exports, you know it is what? It's an object. And I'm saying type of test is what? It's a function. So if I'm going to write exports equals to test, what will happen? What will happen? Test is a function. Function is assigned to objects. So now export is no longer object. It has become a function. Makes sense? So now if you just check type of exports, it has become a function. Makes sense? So if I not specify key, right? If I not specify key, I just omit this thing. So what will happen? The compute is overriding this object. Makes sense? Same if I omit this B also, so test will override the compute. Makes sense? So if I try this stuff, so I hope everyone understand why I put this .a.b and why I use this thing. This is the point where I already know okay, I have two functions and I am just wrapping it everything inside of one object. I hope somebody is also asking this question. That's why I'm just giving an answer. .a.b dynamic key. It means I'm creating a dynamic key, right? But here I'm not creating any dynamic key. It means I'm dynamic key means if this condition is created, then assign it to A. If otherwise, let's say it would be like this. Make sense? So otherwise, assign it to the B. Now the point is, if you are writing line number 17 without this if else condition, it means you are very much sure you want to create these two things, right? That's why I'm saying this would be like a static way, and this has become a dynamic way. So it means either the A will be created or either B will be created. Right? I hope everyone understand this point. So this is how you are using this. It means if you have multiple exports to do, so this is the answer. So there are so many ways to do the same stuff. Make sense? Right. Now there is one more point I want to clarify because somebody is also asking. There is a thing called module.exports, right? And there is something called exports. Only the export, I think. And I think it will work only here. Not. I think it will be because some of the developer using the word called export. So if I use here, so I just commented out this thing. It would not show here because it's not a global object. So if I use here this line of code, this one I copy. So I have this const object, and here I will use something called, I think exports equal to obj. This one. Right? So instead of module.export, I am using exports equal to obj. So what will happen? In this, I am exporting what? I am exporting obj. So calc is going to receive what? Calc is going to receive this obj. So if I run this thing, and let's say I'm saying node call.js, why it is giving an error? Because obj.a is not a function. Just a minute. So I think it is not exporting it. It's giving undefined, I think so. Because there is another way called export, but majority of time I am using obj is coming blank, right? It is returning, but it is blank because majority of time I am using module.exports instead of because there is a syntax called export because somebody is asked. That's why I'm trying to answer this thing because there is another sugar syntax is called export. So it means either you use module.export or either you use exports. The point is when you use using this exports, export is also giving an object. When you're using exports, it is also giving a blank object, and I'm assigning this object. So I just want to check why this thing is not working. Just checking out. So the point is, I think, when you use exports, I just want to convince you the thing called console.log exports is exports, right? And I want to show you console.log because there is a thing called module, because when you use a module, then it will be get public. So it is exported, but it is not get public. That's why it is giving an empty object. So the point is you need to remember when you use this module.export, this is the only way to publish it. So when I use module.export, then it will get published. But when you're using an export, so it would not be get publish. So it means it would not be accessible somewhere else, right? So that's why there is a difference. So it means when you're using this called module.export, it will be exported outside. That's why I'm able to get it. But when I'm using the thing called export, so the point is when you're using export, it would not allow you. It would not allow you to to get the reference of this object. So it means when you see this export, it is given an empty object. It is giving an empty object, but the difference is when you do module, when you do this module dot exports equal to obj. So I will write this line one after another, so you will understand the difference. So when you use this module dot export, then it will be available on require, right? So just run it. So you have the difference between these two. So I am just calling it. It will give an error, but the point is when you use the compute. So when you're using it, so if you see export has a function, module has the same function. Make sense? But the point is when you send it this thing by using module.export, when you're sending this thing by using a module.export, then it will be available in this cals.js. Then it will be available here, right? So also it requires something called add, I think. So the point is, just a minute guys. So because I use A and B now, so I need to change it because in app.js I commented out this thing. So it is now compute and test. So from here in cal.js, I just commented out this thing because it's an old code, because I commented out the rest of the things here. So I just open this, right? And from here, I use this. So when I use export is, so it is get exported, and the same stuff when I use something called only the module.export, only the export one. So I commented out this thing and I use only the export one, right? So from here, when you use export one, you will see it has become object as curly bracket. Make sense? So the point to be noted is when you're using module.export, so it is actually published and it is accessible by the thing called require. So module.export give a reference, so it means you can access it anywhere. But when you're using an export, so the export says this is only available here. It would not have the access in a require thing, right? So somebody's asked why we use the exports then. So you can think about export is like a private thing, module export is like a public thing, right? So that's why if you want to distinguish between these two things, so it means if we create something but we don't want to expose it, that's why they created a syntax called exports, right? But when you want to expose it, then you have the thing called module.exports. Make sense? Anything else you want to ask, guys? I hope I answer this thing. What is this export? So the point is you can differentiate this thing. So because it has the export, but if you want to differentiate it, if you want to use it like a module.export, so the point to be noted is you can use this way exports equals to module.exports, and then if you do exports equal to obj, now it will behave like a module.export. So that's why some of the developers don't want to use it module.exports everywhere. That's why they use the word called exports. So they have the reference of module.export, so they have the capability of module.export, then they can use it, right? So if we just go here and from here, if I call, what will happen? obj.compute, it is still giving blank, but here I will give so I just make a difference because I want to show you the differentiation. So the practice we will follow. So practice we will follow. I just delete this thing, so you will understand where I can use the export and where I use the module.export. So from here, I use something called exports here, here without equal to. Here I use the word called exports, and here I will add something called exports.a equal to exports.b equal to, right? So because somebody's asked, then what is the use of export? So I just want to convince this thing. So if you just see exports.a, exports.b, so it means this you can treat it like in this way. When you use exports, so exports is a blank object. So when you use .a, so a is become a key, and this contain a function. Make sense? This one, this function, compute, right? When you use exports.b, so it is get filled. Makes sense? Now the point is where you can use it this practically. Now you have export everywhere. Now you will use this thing. So I am just commenting out this stuff also because this is the older one. Now I will use something called module. So from here I will use something called module.exports equal to exports. Make sense? So it means here I export this thing. So so I create exports, and finally at the end I will use module.exports equals to exports. Right. So this exports, this object will be exported A and B, and because A and B is get exported, so from the caller point of view, I will say A, I will say B, right? And from here I will say this thing. I hope I answer your question. So export is a private thing. It means it is not export outside it. So you wrapped everything which you want to export it. So you wrap everything by using export. So it means you are wrapping everything inside of one object. So the same stuff I did it here. Make sense? Instead of using an export word, I use an object word. And because I use an object word, so I use something called module.export. So I use module. So it is primarily same. Right? I hope I answer every question, guys, because so some of them are asking about why the export is. So that's why I'm using export is a private thing, because it's an object. It never be exposed when you're using module.export. So if you don't like to use export, I am convincing you use an object like I use it. So I use an object, I just wrap everything in an object, then I export it. Make sense? If you don't want to use custom object name, you want to use the same object name, so I am recommended go for exports. And then at the end, use module.exports. Make sense? So I'm moving to the next question. So because the same question is asked by the Nitin. I hope Nitin, you understand this thing. The export versus module.export. So now I'm moving to the next thing, that is, now I have the module. I want to publish this module. But before publishing it, I want the important thing, that is how I can run my module. I mean, I am right now running my module from the call.js. So call.js is responsible to run my module, right? So if I'm using a call.js, call.js is going to talk to the calc.js. Makes sense? Now the point is, I want in my math calc, I want this app.js is trigger. I mean, it is triggered by something called, let's say, my caller.js. So this my caller.js is here, and for example, I'm saying const obj equals to require, and from here, and I will say dot slash, and here I will use app. Sorry, the app, right? So I'm accessing an app, and from here I will say console.log. So the same stuff. I mean this one. So I will write this stuff. So I just copy this thing and I put it in my caller. So there's a difference. My caller is my module calling point. This is the outside module calling point. Why I create this? This is the important thing. So I have my caller. So when I create my module, I want to test it by my own self. It means I just want to run it. I want to check, is this my module is working? Instead of hand it over to some other guy who is creating test math calculator and it is going to call it. But if I want to try it by my own, so the point is, here is a command called, here is a command I want to trigger. Why I'm recommending the command? The point is, if somebody, for example, in my team, we create a module and some developer of my team want to test it. So if my team developer want to test it, so it must be first go to my module, that is a math calc. It will go here, and that my developer must aware about there is a file call mycaller.js. Makes sense? So think about you join some company who is working on a Node.js from, let's say, from 1 year, past 1 year, and they have created, let's say, 1500 JS file. Now you want to trigger it. Which one is the starting file? Which one is become the starting file? So you need to remember the name of a file. How you can figure it out? You need to just see the code and then you can figure out. Instead of figuring out which one is the starting file, I mean, the starting file means which one is the invocation file, right? So which one is my invocation file is the answer by something called start. So there is a predefined command called start, and inside the start, my senior developer will write something called node mycaller. Makes sense? So this is written by whom? This is written by my somebody senior. So if I am a new in a project and I want to know which one is the starting, which one is the starting file to invoke it? Which one is the starting file to invoke it? The answer is I will write here. This is the most important thing, guys. I will write here npm start. That's it. When I write npm start, it will be go in a packet.json file. Make sense? And it is looking up for the start command. Start command will fire this thing. So it means it makes developer life very easy. So it means, for example, if you borrow some other guy module and you want to know which one is the file I want to invoke it. So that's a basic crunch when you're using some, you're moving to some new project, right? And that project is developed by some other guys. And you want to know which one is the starting file to invoke. Which one is the invocation file from where everything is get started. That's why they have something called start script. And in the start script, I will specify node mycaller.js. Make sense? So I just do save, and I am doing npm start. Once I do npm start stuff, it will go to the packet.json. It will be looking for the start, and here is the magic. So if I done enter, you will see. So it is saying result is this. Make sense? It is saying result is this. The result is coming. I am test is coming. Right? And it is just showing npm does not support because I already convinced you there is something called npx. So I can use a npx, right? So it is just giving a warning to me. I hope everyone understand the difference between the start and the main. Main is basically if I am going to consume your module and I just specify the folder name in your require, which one is the starting file. Make sense? Which one is the starting file? But when I want to run my code, so which one is the start file? So it is answered by the start command. So start is a predefined word. I hope everyone understand this thing. That's really important stuff. So most of the time interviewer asks, what is the start? What is the main? Right? Why you create the packet.json? I hope guys, everyone understand this thing. And this is somehow the development is a very serious job. That's why we are doing some serious stuff there, right? There is no fancy stuff I am right now doing is. So it means when you are going to create an application, you need to remember these rules. Then you are able to build some application, right? So now moving to the next term. So far we know how to create a module and how to consume it. Even you can create your own command. So if you want to create your own command, this is also possible. So for example, I want to say I have my own command, right? I have my own command. I want to run my own command. So for example, I just to make it easy, I just specify this Amit, right? So this is like a my command, and this command is going to run this thing, node mycaller.js. So this is also possible. So if I specify Amit, now the point is, if I do npm start, we know when I specify npm start, it will call node mycaller and the result will become. So it means if I do node npm Amit, right? If I do npm Amit instead of npm start, so what will happen? So it will say, no, this is not a command. So it will show you the list of the commands. So it is showing these are the list of commands. You can use only these words, right? But we can use the Amit. The way out is there is a thing called command called npm run, right? There is a command called npm run, and then you will specify Amit. Then it will give you an output. Make sense? So it has the option to create your own commands. But the point is you need to remember something called run. So you need to specify npm run. and then name of your command. Make sense? So you can create your own commands. I hope guys this thing is clear. So we understand what is the use of this packet.json stuff. Now I want to upload this thing. I mean, I want to upload this code on some npm. So it means you can install my project in your machine as well, like we install the chalk. So how we can do this thing? So I just go to the Chrome. Just a minute. I just go to the Chrome, and from here I have this npmjs.com, because in Chrome I have the account which I already saved. Otherwise I have an option. I just go to the sign in. I need to sign in there. If I do not have sign in option, so I need to create an account, because I tried a lot of accounts here, so it would not allow me, because it is asking for some email address. So I need to specify the email address. It will show this email address is already registered. So either you can use it your own, and you can register it by your own self. Like here, if you just go to the Chrome version, I have something called mean batch June. Right. So I have one account, mean batch June, and just do sign out this thing. So I have this module. So I just do sign out. I just want to show you. I just go sign in, and from here you will see mean batch June, right? So this is my account. Here I want to upload it. So even I created so many others also. So for example, if I just go to this mean batch June, and I need to remember the password. What is it? So the point is, I have this account, and on this account I want to publish my module. So if I want to publish my module, the first thing is just go to your methcalc. Here I am, methcalc, and here I need to write something called npm add user. So you want to publish it, I need to specify npm add user. So in add user, I need to specify something called mean batch June. So I specify mean batch June. Then it is asking for something called password. So I need to specify something password, right? So I think the password is, if I try, and it is asking for my email ID. So I specify my mail ID. So the password is changed. I hope I changed some password. So just a minute, guys. I need to recover the password first of all. So recover a password. I just show you. So to recovering a password, you have this option. So you can either type text. So it will show you mean 1 2 3 4 5 6. So I use this password, right? So I recover it, and from here, if I just go here, add user, it is asking for this thing, that is, there is a mean batch June. So I specify mean batch June and mean 1 2 3 4 5 6, and it is asking for my mail ID. Now I'm get logged in. I hope everyone understand this thing. So I am get logged in, and now I am ready to publish this module over the internet, because it is attached on npm. So it means you create your project, you write your code stuff, and now the point is you specify npm add user. Now when you write npm add user, so you are logged in with npm account. Once you are logged in with npm account, now the point is you need to specify npm publish. When you write this line, it is get published. So it is going to publishing it, and it is published on my module. So it is get published, and the name of the module is methcalc 2020, right? I hope guys this is clear. So Ritik, what you not understand in this? I hope you understand how to create a module. I hope you understand how to create a module. You are not understanding npm login. So the only point is, Ritik, that is just go to the npm first of all, then create your account, right? You need to just create an account first of all. So while you're creating your account, the point is you want to publish your module, right? So the best part is you can, if you create something and you publish it over the internet, so somebody can use it. right? So for example, we already know Chalk is a module. I mean, it's a package that is already on npm. Makes sense? It is already on npm and we are using it. So same thing we want to do. We want to create our own module or package and we want to publish it here. So to publish it, the first point is you need an account. You need an account. So you need to register it here. That's the first step. So I hope you understand. You need to first register it. I already registered it, right? That's why I'm showing you a previous account. Why I'm not able to register right now? Because I already consumed my email ID thrice and fourth time, right? So it would not allow me to register it again and again. So I need some new mail ID. Make sense? So even you first registered it. Once you registered it, means you have the account on npm. So if you have an account, like I already shown you, I have an account, and if I just log in it here, so I am here on npm. Make sense? And on an npm, I can publish my modules. So this is my account. I hope guys you understand. This is my account. So same here. Once I get logged in, so I just go on this section, code section, and from the code section, I just first go to the module folder. That is important point, guys. So I first go to the module folder. I am here, and here I will write this thing npm add user. When I write npm add user, it will ask for the user ID and password. So somewhere it will ask for this thing, right? And it will ask for email ID. It will ask for a password. So here it is, the successful version. So this is the user ID. Password it would not show, right? When I'm typing it would not show stars, and it will show you the mail ID, right? So when I done this thing, then the last step I want to do npm publish. When you write the npm publish, it will publish it. It will publish your METHKLC over the internet. I mean over the npm. Make sense? I hope Chetan understand this thing, Satish understand, Ritik understand. All of them have the same question. Okay. So now your code is published on this npm. So now you can check it out. Is this publish or not? So just go here, and you have something called packages inside your account. So you have the packages, and here is your package over the internet. So when you click it here, you will see it will open like a chalk, but we have not write any documentation here. So it would not show any documentation, but it will show you the same stuff. You have npm install command, you have version. If you write any documentation, so the documentation will be coming up here. So you need to just create a readme file, and readme file is there. So that's why it is asking you do not have the readme file. So it is showing you have this version. It is showing you this is the size and the total thing, and when it is get published, who is get published this thing. Now I can use this thing. So for example, I want to consume it like a chalk. So like we consume chalk. So if you just go here in a consume demo, we learn about this thing that is chalk and chalkidar earlier, right? Same thing I want to consume it here. So if you go in node modules, you have the chalk and chalkidar, right? I want to consume the meth one. So how to consume it, the meth one? I just go to the folder called consume demo. So I just go cd ... And suppose I am right now, think about, I do not have METHKLC in my machine. So the same step you can do it on your machine also. So the first thing is when you are going to consume, you need a packet.json, and you already know npm init command is responsible to create a packet.json. Once you have the packet.json file, then you need to just do the stuff. For example, I just moving to this consume demo folder. I am here. I just do clear it. Right. So Satish is saying it is not showing because it will take some time to publish it. Right. So right now it is available on my machine. It will take some time to publish it, expose it over the internet, right? So because it would be go in a verification stage. So it will first verify it. It would not have any sort of security issues, these kind of things, or duplication of logic. It does not. If it is get approved by the npm, then it will be showing it here. Makes sense? That's why it is showing out on my account. Now the point is, you need to just write the npm install command, because it is on search it would not be, because on search it will take some time. So only the point is you need to remember the command. So you can try this command only. So I just copy this command. So the page would not be show. It will take some time. So I just go here, and from here I will press enter. Make sense? So the point is, now in packet.json you have something called meth-calc. Now if you have this meth-calc, so I can consume it. So just to consume it, I will write const meth-calc, or I will just say obj equals. Now the point is, I do not use any dot kind of thing. Dot is for current folder stuff. So I will just simply say meth-calc20. That's it. So it is same like requiring a chalk, requiring an fs. So I have this thing. I have the object, so I can say console.log and meth. I will say meth, and I will say obj.a, and I will pass some values. Make sense? So if I test this thing, clear, and then I will say node and demo1.js. So it is showing you meth result is. I hope everyone understands this thing. So if you want to run this stuff on your machine, I am suggesting you type this command, but you have the packet.json. Then it will show in our dependencies. Make sense? I hope everyone understands how to publish your module on Npm. So that's a public Npm, right? This is a public Npm. That's why everyone can access it. But if you want to use a private, so private Npm is paid. So you can create a private Npm account. That private Npm is only published to your team members. For example, you register your team there of 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, and then you publish your code to your team. Make sense? So that is a public version I am using. That is a free version. So you're able to use the free version of it. Make sense, guys? So now, so far we understand something called how to use the module stuff. So in a node section, we are pretty much ready to express now. Now the fun part start, because in express, you are actually answering those things which is actually used in reality. I mean, how the login thing work, how the registration will be going on, how the session management will be going on, how we can send the JSON, how we can create the web services. So most of the jargons we will answer in the Express. But the bottom line is, this is an important thing. You need to understand how to do an export, how to use a module.export thing, how to consume it, how to use start command. These things are really, really important. So if you map the thing in React, you will write npm start, and now you can understand how they make npm start, because we already make it. Make sense? So when the React is going to write something called npm run, so you will understand this. That's a customized command created by the React. Makes sense? So the same thing we have done in the node. Now the point to be understand is, we are moving to the Express stuff to connect the things with Node.js, right? Because in Node.js we are using some core modules, right? So in core modules, the only challenge is, if you are going to create your server, you need to write a lot of code. That's why we are moving to something called Express. Express.js is basically primarily for web development. It is primarily for the web development, right? So it does not say how to create a module, how to export it. This is all the things are created by the node. It does not say how to use file system. It is already taken care by the node stuff. I hope everyone understands. So it means if you want to do web development on server side, that is an important point. That is on the server side, not on the client side. React we have done for the client side. So Express.js is a framework. So it is a framework for doing the server side web development. Makes sense? So now the point is, we will understand how to create our own server. It means how to create our own server. The answer is done by the Node.js. But Express has the predefined things to create the server stuff. I mean, it has the predefined APIs. So it means we are just writing those things, and our server instance will be get up, right? But in Node, we need to write a lot of code to create our own server, right? But because we have the shortage of time and we want to learn a lot of stuff, that's why I'm focusing on the Express servers instead of writing it on a node. But you can learn it also if the time allows, or in some more detailed sort of training, we can write it our own server, right? The only point is to write it own server is to get more clarity. But the point is, in practical world, no one is going to create own server. They are using the Express, because Express has the functionality of this. I hope everyone understand my point of view. So that's why we are moving to the Express. And from the Express point of view, we are going to create our server like a Flipkart, Amazon, like a Google, these kind of servers, which is actually taking the request and giving a response, right? And then we are going to connect with the database also. So that's why I'm saying it's a very fun part, because whatever you are going to learn, you can implement it somewhere, right? So the main focus to all of you is to think about the websites. Think about the website you have seen, then asking those features, how you can create these features. Make sense? So you can actually learn why the expresses get fitted. So instead of learning what is express, what is it is going to use, think about if you're going to create any shopping application, what are the challenges you will face. Make sense? And we are going to resolve those challenges, right? So that's why the express comes in the picture. So if somebody asks you what is express, so the best definition to see the express thing is the official website of Express. So just go to this section, Express.js. Just go to this section. It's clearly they have saying this thing, Node.js web application frameworks, clearly this thing. So it means I told you this is basically for the Node.js web development thing. Make sense? I hope everyone understand this thing. So it is a Node.js web application framework. And if we just look up this thing, it is saying I am a fast. But how it has become fast? If it is saying it is a fast, how? The point is it is minimalized. It means it has very minimum feature inside it. So it is not a big or giant framework, right? It is not like a giant. It is internally a giant, but by default, it is coming very minimum features. So that's the beauty of this. So when we are using an Express, so Express beauty is Express has something called very small features they have given by default. And they are just saying, because if you just look up this thing, they are saying I am minimalized. So it means it has very minimum sort of features for a web framework for Node.js. So it means it has a lot of things, but it is come up with very small features. So it means when you need the things, then you can install it. It is like when you need it, you can install it. So if you see the picture called Iron Man Part 1, in the Iron Man Part 1, Iron Man has a suit, and wherever Iron Man has to go, it has to wear the suit. But in Iron Man Part 3, the suit is not go with Iron Man. It means on demand basis, Iron Man can ask for a suit feature. So it means if it want only the hand feature of the suit, so it will ask for a hand, right? So it means it actually asking the feature on demand basis. Same here in an Express, we are asking the feature on a demand basis. So which version of Express we are going to use? 4.1.7. This is the stable release. 5 is on an alpha stage. It means it is right now not stable. It is in the progress stage. So right now they are building the 5.1. So sooner the 5 will become in the picture. So right now in the training time, we are going to use the latest one. So we need to install, first of all, this framework. This framework has so many stuff. It means it already know, it will already give you this kind of answers. Think about it. If you want to write your server, the challenges you will face is your server must be the infinite. It means the server always running. That's why I'm using a word called infinite. So server will be run infinite. Makes sense. So how the server will be run infinite? That's a question mark. That is answered by the Express. How the server receive the request, how the server will give a response. So I need some predefined APIs. Again, the Express will give the answer. How you can send a dynamic response. Dynamic means based on some query. For example, if I am looking for a mobile phone, so it will give the result for the mobiles. If I am looking for LEDs, so it will give a dynamic response based on this. So dynamic response I want, plus static response I want. Static response means if I'm looking for some page, home page is a static thing. So it is always a home page. So it means a static response. So it take care of static, it take care of dynamic response, both of the response, as well as how to handle the request. So when the request is coming, request either coming on a get way, either it is coming on a post way, either it is coming on a put way, either it will coming in a delete way. So there are plenty of methods to receive a request. So how these methods will be interact? How page redirection will work? It means if I am on a first page and then I redirect to another page, it is like when you are logging in a Gmail, you logged in and then you will be redirect to the inbox. So how the page redirection will be go? How to send response in an HTML way or either in a JSON way? How you can send these kind of responses, right? How you can do the session handling. Session handling means is basically when you are logging it in some website, it will give a response and the connections get cut. So how it remember you are actually logged in earlier? So that's why we need to use something called session handling. So there are plenty of features is actually given by whom? By the Express. So this is just a bare minimum I have written, but it has plenty of them, right? So we just go one after another. I hope everyone understand this thing. Why we are moving to the Express? So Express, the answer is Express is a framework which is for the web, and it is written completely in Node.js. And it is very fast because it has only minimum features. So it will give you a minimum feature. On demand basis, you will install it. That is the important point. On demand basis, you are going to install it. So Express, it means if you have any prior experience in a web development, just forget it. Just forget it. I am just saying, because the way the Express will work is entirely different. So if you learn servlet or a JSP in a college, or somebody learn the PHP or something else, the only help is you know only the request and response thing. That's it. But the way out of working of Express is entirely new and entirely easier. So it is much easier to use. So there are plenty of framework in Node.js, but Express is the choice for the beginners. It means if you are a beginner, start with an Express. And Express has a beauty. It start with the beginning, but it can go for a very complex application. That's why a lot of companies are using the Express. There is another framework that is called Koa, right? There is another framework that is called Koa. You can use this one also. But the point is, this framework is written on top of Express. The knowledge you must have, the Express knowledge you have, then you can go for a Koa, right? So right now we are starting with an Express thing, and you can even learn for Koa. That is it means you can think that Express plus feature it has. So they have written, the Express companies written the same feature, that is a Koa. So it is a promise based Express, right? So you learn the promise. So it engage promises in a Koa. And Express is more on the callback based. Make sense? I hope everyone understand why we are going to learn the Express, and everyone understand these are the sort of features we need to build when we are writing a server. So the base target to all of you is, think about a one project. We start with a one project, and we use those features. We learn the features, and we will incorporate those features in an Express. Guys, somebody mic is on. Please switch off. So the point is, we know what is Express, and we already know these are the features. So what we'll start with a very basic thing. It means we start with an Express thing, and we are going to incorporate these things, and then we incorporate all of the features in a one project application, right? So that project application is basically using a React, using a Node, using an Express, using a Mongo, all of them together, right? So that would be a very challenging thing to understand. So first start with an Express, right, to develop web applications. So the first question in your mind is how to create an infinite server. It means the server never be shut down. The point is, if we run our code, the problem we are facing is when we run our code, so the code is get run. So think about it. I just go to the thing called c ... I just go back to the thing called mathcalc, right? I'm here, and here I just write npm start. So you will see the answer. When you write it, the output will be coming, and then code is stopped, right? Run and then stop. But the server is always running mode, right? So server is actually keep running. So you want the server is keep run. So how the server is in a keep running mode? Just see this thing. We create first thing, that is the Express folder I'm going to create. So it means I just named it web app. I just named it web app, right? And in this web app, from this point of view, I just create the first things. So I just do cd ... cd web app. This is our name of our project. Makes sense? So web app, and inside this web app, we are going to write our server stuff. So the first thing first, I write npm init. You already know this npm init, and it will ask so many questions. If I don't want to give any answer of the questions, so I will say npm init -y. When you write npm init -y, you are saying, I say yes every time. So keep it yes everything, and I press enter. Everything is get generated. So it would not ask single question with me, and it will take it everything yes. Make sense? So this is a shorthand. So I done this thing npm init -y. Now the point is we have this web app. Now I want to use an express. To use an express, I will write npm install express. So that is the magic. Now you have the framework express. So bottom line is express is what? Express is nothing. It is just a package. Bottom line is this. It is a package. Makes sense? So if you just go to the package.json, you will see you can express. And you have 4.17. If you just go here, this is a 4.17. That's the latest one you have. Makes sense? So for example, if you don't want to use 4, so you can specify @3 dot some version. So if you want to use some downgrade version, so the recommendation is express @ and specify the version. So you want to use latest one, that's why I specify npm install express. That's it. So now you have the express. Now the point to be start. The point is our server. So I just go back to the code window. The point is, the first point is server must be the infinite server, right? There's the first point. Server must receive request, send response. That's a responsibility of the server, right? So first point, second point, third point, plus it will send some static files. Static files means it will serve HTML, CSS, JS. These are the static files will be get served. Right? That is a basic responsibility of the server. If you just see the thing which we started with in JavaScript time, we use a live server. That is a server which is running infinitely. It receive the request, it send the response. Response is your page.
Sir, your mic is muted.
I'm audible now?
Yes, sir.
Is I mute myself? Or?
Yes, sir. You were muted.
Okay, I think I click on somewhere. Right? So from where the voice is gone, I will repeat the things.
Static.
सर आपने बोला था लाइट सर्वर इज
Okay.
इनफाइनाइट सर्वर, उसके बाद से आपकी आवाज चली गई.
Okay. So the point is, guys, your express is what? Express responsibility is to create the infinite server, receive request and receive request and send response. That's the responsibility. And static files, serve HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And you know all of these things is actually done by whom? By the live server. So indirectly, you're going to create a live server, but this server will be get hosted on somewhere else. So it means the same thing. I mean, the express thing you can host it somewhere. Makes sense? You can host it somewhere. That is the important thing. So it means you can host it on AWS. That is possible. You can host it on Azure. That is also possible. You can host on some free one, because AWS, Azure, these are the paid one. So you can use something called Heroku. That is a free one. So you can also use this one also. Makes sense? Or you can even use GoDaddy, but you need to buy a server. And the server cost is 4K per month, I think, for GoDaddy. So AWS is pretty much cheap compared to it, and Heroku is anyway, it's a free one. So we are going to use the Heroku for using a free one. Right? Makes sense? So now the point is, first thing is we need an infinite server. We need to accept the request and response. We need to send some files. So the first step is, the step number 1 is you need to write const express equals to require express. So you have something called express, right? We start with something called app.js. App.js represent application. That is important point. app.js represent application. So that's why I'm saying I'm going to create an application. Application has something called login. Application can have the registration. Application have the profile change, password change. These kind of lot of stuff will be get added. So that's why I start with an app.js. Makes sense? So in this app.js, I will say I have the Express. Express is a framework. Express end outcome is what? Express is going to create what? Express is going to create an application. That's why I write something called const app express. So express at the end is a function. Express at the end is a function. So I'm calling this function. It will give an app. App represent an application, right? It represents an application. So inside this application, I can start this application. So I will write app.listen. So it means app.listen says start your server. So when I want to start the server, I need a port. So the point to be remember is your server is always running on some port. Think about it. Like Google, when we write google.com, what does it mean? When you write google.com, behind the scene, it is using google.com :80. Right. So it is actually using this thing :80, but it is not showing it here. This is why, because I just go to the terminal section. Right. And from the terminal, let's say, I will say here, there is ping google.com. So when I'm pinging it, this is the IP address of Google. Make sense? So this is the IP address of the Google. So can I write this thing? HTTP, SC or HTTP, and this is the Google IP. And then this is the port number of the Google. Make sense? I hope everyone understands this thing. So when I write this thing, it will be get converted into the google.com. 80 is a port number for HTTP, and that is the IP address. So the point to be remember is when you're making your application on your machine, you do not have the domain name. Domain name, you need to go to the GoDaddy and buy it. Make sense? So for example, go to the GoDaddy, right? And in the GoDaddy, if you want to register your domain, so go here and buy it. Make sense? So any domain you want to buy it. So for example, you are saying full stack domain you want to register. So it will show you is this domain is available. So it is saying full stack is taken up and there is a broker fees. So this broker will talk to this company which has this fullstack.com and it will ask for the price. What would be the price you want to sell this domain? Make sense? I hope everyone understands. So your IP address is mapped with this domain because this name is not available. So I am saying full stack app, right? It is also taken by someone. So I will say 2020. So this is available, right? So this is a rate of 499. Makes sense for a 1 year. So you can register this domain and your IP is get mapped with this domain. So that is the responsibility of this GoDaddy. They will sell a domain. They are selling the domains. I hope everyone understands this. So app.listen says my server will be running. So if it is running, so what would be the port number? Because right now I do not have the real server because I'm running on my machine. So I will say 1234 is my port number. So any port number you can give it, right? But that port number never be already consumed by some application. Like if you're using an Oracle is running on a port number 1521. Your MySQL is running on 3306. So you need to remember you cannot use this port. If you're using some Apache server, it is running on 8080. So that's why I use 1234. It is not consumed by anyone. So I use this port number. If it is get consumed by somebody, so it will conflict it and it will give an error. Make sense? So now it is running on 1234. Now I have the callback, and this callback I will say console.log, and I'm here saying server is up and running. I hope everyone understand this thing. So server is up and running. Now from here, I will say the good thing is I will say node and app.js. Now it will say service is up and running. And if you see, it is not, it is not breakup. It means it is keep running mode. So that's why it is become infinite. And it is running on the port number called 1234. So guys, if you have any question in your mind, so you can ask. Right? So your server is up and running now. This moment time. If it has some error, if it has error, so I will say if error. So I will say console.log error on server start. Else if it is not, no error. So no error. So the point is, it is saying server is up and running. Now the problem start. The problem start is, guys, I need to just stop the server. I need to run it again. Makes sense? Because I done the changes in my code. So I done the changes in my code. So it means every time if I done it, I need to restart my server by pressing Control C. So it will stop the server and then typing something called node app.js. That is a problem. So I want the server will be intelligent. It means if I make any changes in my code, server is automatically run. Right? This is called hot reload. Right? So it means hot reload means your application is running behind the scene. When you make changes, automatically it will affect. That's why the word is called hot reload. So most of the servers has this kind of feature. So Node has also this kind of feature. So I need to use something called Nodemon, right? So there is something called Nodemon, right? So for this, just type something called npm install nodemon -g. So nodemon means node monitoring. So it is actually going to monitor a node. So I use this thing, and let's say I say sudo in my case, because I need to give a permission to install it. So -g means globally it would be get installed only one time. Make sense? So here it is. It is get installed. Once it is get installed, you need to just write something called nodemon and then app.js. That's it. Now it is saying I am watching it. So if you just see, it is like a Chowkidar it is using internally, because Chowkidar has the same responsibility. It is actually monitoring it. It means it is always watching it. So the point is you need to use a Nodemon, and Nodemon is basically used to actually doing the hot reload thing. It means whenever you make any changes in your code, it will be get the changes and it will put the changes on the server side, right? So it means that's why there is something called Nodemon. So Vikas, what you are asking, repeat the steps of Express, either in Nodemon steps you are asking. So what else? What you have not understand? Yes, I installed Express. I hope you are there or not that time. Npm install Express. So once I done this thing, it will be here in packet.json. Then I require it. It give a function and it will create an application. And when you have the application is listening on this port number. So from here, I use something called Nodemon. That is the point we have learned. Nodemon is basically the monitoring tool. Now, the point is, because I have this Nodemon app.js, so can I write this thing here on the start script? So I need to remember the thing. Just a minute. So I need not to remember the thing, that is, if I just go here, I type start, and from start, if I write something called Nodemon app.js, so instead of writing Nodemon app.js, I will always write something called npm start. I hope everyone understands this thing. So npm start internally called Nodemon, and now the server is up and running. So the best part of this thing is, it means if I done any changes in my code, so like I done this change and I press Ctrl S, so watch this thing. So I press Ctrl S, it will be restart automatically. I do not need to restart it. That is a benefit of Nodemon, right? That's why we are using Nodemon. I hope everyone understands. So your server is up and running. Now the point is this server is really up and running? So check this out. I just go here and type here localhost 1234. It is saying cannot get. So it means it is saying you are requesting for something, but I do not have anything to serve you. I do not have anything to serve you. So I want to serve something. So I just go to the web app, do right click new folder, and I will create a folder called public. I create a folder called public. Inside it, I will create my home page. Let's say I create something called index.html. So this is my index.html. And suppose I want to serve this page. So I just go here and I will say h1 home page, right? I want to serve this page, index.html. So how I can serve this page? So the point is my server is running. If I'm going to write something called /index.html, so is this going to serve? No, it is saying no, I cannot. So to serve this page, it requires something called middleware. This is the important point, guys. It requires something called middleware. So middleware are what? Middlewares are the modules, or you can say these are the packages which has some additional features, and your app need to use those features. So your app need to use those features for the middleware. So middlewares app.use, and this is the by default middleware which is coming by default with an express. So I use express.static public. What does it mean? When I use a word called express.static public, so it means it is going to serve all the files inside the public folder. Right behind the scene, it is using something called fs, because through fs it will go to the path and read the file and then serve it by using this thing called stream. Right, we have used the word. So it is using, when I say express.static public, so it will go in a public folder and it will serve the files. So when I use app.use, it means I am using some middleware. So in your mind, you need to remember the thing. Middleware are some sort of modules or packages. We've already done the module creation, right? So somebody creates some module or packages, and that module or packages, we are going to consume it here. So there is a thing called express.static public. So we are consume it here. So that's why I'm using a word called app.use. So I'm using it here. Now because I use it here, now the picture will be very clear. If I use localhost 1234, it will directly go to the index.html. That's the beauty of this. So it already know the first page is index.html. So for example, this index.html, when I go here, I move to the login.html. So index.html will be moved to the login.html. So I just say a tag, and I will say login.html, and from here I will say login. From here I say login. So from this section, I just go here, login, and I click it. So it will be redirect me to where? In the login page. In the login page, if I have, let's say, written here login page h1, and if I just go here and click on the login, so I am on the login page. I hope everyone understands. It means now our server is capable. Our server is capable to do this thing. Now it is going to serve the pages. I hope everyone understands this thing. It means how the page is serving. So the purpose we have completed that is, we understand our server is infinite, and we understand our server is going to send some static response, right? It means the public folder it is going to serve. Make sense? I hope everyone understand this stuff. Now the point is, because we are going in a baby step form, so we are just taking the baby steps one after another, so we can understand everything. So now the next thing in your mind is, can I do a login? I mean, if I want to try a login stuff, can I do this? Yes, of course. So for this, if I say input into 2, so it will create 2 text boxes, and from here, let's say I will say placeholder. And another question must be in our mind, how this will be get connected with the React. So right now I'm just parking this question. I just connect with plain HTML, then I will connect with the React. So the Express will be talk to the React through Node things also, because Node is behind the scene in the picture. So the point is, I am saying type user ID here. If you not understand guys anything, so please raise your questions, because right now we're in that form, how to build everything. Make sense? So Satish is saying in live server React.js server, when we change something, it will auto refresh the page in the browser, right? Yes, it has the feature of auto refresh. Right now, because it's a server side. Think about it. In the server side, this feature is not required at all. It would not refresh it, right? Because it's a server side. That is a feature of the React thing. So React has the front end. So when the React will be loaded, it will load the backend. So it is get automatically refreshed. So we do not need to worry about how our backend server will be get refreshed. I hope you understand this thing. And also the thing is, if you want to do auto refresh of the content, because for example, on server side, you have a cricket live score. You want to auto refresh the scorecard. So you need to learn something called SSE, right? Server side events. There is a thing called. But the point is, right now we are focused on the Express side. So right now, that's why I'm not covering it server side events. So there is a thing called server side event, which can integrate with an HTML5, right? Through this, you can do the auto refresh of the things, because it will register some events. But we are very far from that side right now, because we are right on the web application development side, right? Node has 2 spectrums. It has a networking side, it has the web development side. We are right now focused on the web development side. Web development side has a 2 spectrum. Either the server-side development or either the mix-up of them. I mean the client-side and the server-side. So when we are doing the client-side and the server-side stuff, so we will use something called web services. We are building some web services and it is consumed by the React. So our focus is on this side. So we create some web services and that is consumed by the React. So React and Node talk to each other, which is the fashion most of the developer right now using it. I hope Satish you understand this thing. So I am here now. I will say placeholder and I will say type password here. So I have type user ID here, type password here, two things, and I will say break lines. Right now I'm not focusing on the designing stuff. So later on we will design it when we are on the React side. Now when we have this user ID and the password stuff, now the problem start. We need to submit this thing. To submit this thing, the point is you need to wrap everything inside a form. So remember this thing, when you are going to submit the stuff, you need to wrap it everything inside a tag called form. You already know this thing in HTML training. So you already know there is a tag called form tag, and this form tag is wrapping all the fields. So it means we are going to submit what? We are going to submit a form. When you're going to submit a form, you're going to submit the user ID, you're going to submit the password. You must need to specify the method. It means how you're going to submit it. If you not specify any method, by default, the method of HTTP is get. So it means it is a get method. Get, its name says get means you're getting the things, but you're not getting the things, you're sending the things. Sending means post. That's why we're using a post. So remember this thing. Getting means if you want to get some data, for example, you're searching some mobile on internet, that is getting the thing, because you're just sending mobile and you will get the mobile results. But here you are actually sending your user ID and a password, and when you use a get, the problem is password would be shown on an address bar. But when you use a post is a secure method. So when you are sharing your CVV number of credit card, you are doing the payment, you are doing the login, you are doing the registration, you are doing the file uploading, always through a post. Makes sense? So that's why I use method equals to post. I hope everyone understands this thing. Now there is a thing called action. Action means when it is doing a post, where it is going to post it. Where it is going to post it. So there must be some action required. There must be some action required for this. So you need to specify some action. I hope everyone understands this thing. So action means the server side action. Action means the server side action will be happen. So it means on a server side, I will just say login. Makes sense? It means on server there is something called login which actually take this values for a login, right? So it means if you just go here, you will see everyone is using the same formula. So for example, if I just do a google.com, so Satish is saying we can see post data in network bar of browser and inspect. On a network bar, you will see the responses, right? So you need to pick the request data because the request data is somehow inside the body. So inside the body, you need to open the body, then you will get it. Makes sense. But direct access would not be allowed. Right. So Nitin is asking about, I think, method post and get. So Nitin, it is pretty much simpler thing. That is when you are sending the data, which is, let's say, for example, you are using some registration form, and inside the registration form, you are sending user ID, password, address, gender, age, suppose plenty of features you are going to send. So you need to wrap everything inside a form. And because your data volume is huge, so the answer is the method is equals to post. You need to use a post. Makes sense. So method equals to post is required for this. Now action equals to login. When you're using this action equals to login, so you are saying from whom I want to send the data. I mean, on a server side, who is going to receive this? So there would be some action. There would be some action who is going to receive it. So we'll create some action on a server side who is going to receive your data. So it means you are calling something on a server side that is /login. So that's why I'm comparing this thing. When you're on a Google and you are, let's say, searching BMW car. So you will see here there is something called /search. So this /search is like /login, right? And when you use question mark something, so it means it is a get request by default because it is giving you data. If it is a get request, so if you just go there, and you will see something called Q, right? Q has something called BMW car. So if I say instead of BMW, I will say Audi. Makes sense? Q equals to Audi car. So you will see it is giving the Audi option, right? I hope everyone understands this thing. right? So if I use something on a queue, so it means you understand the point. That is, the get value is you can see it here, right? I hope everyone understands. So the point is, it is visible by whom? It is actually visible to my end user. So end user can manipulate it, this data, right? Or even because it is a part of what? It is a part of your URL. So anyone can bookmark it. That is another problem. So your password can be bookmarked by someone. I hope you understand this thing. So Nirosha is asking, if you post something in a get, anyone can hack. Definitely. So the point is, Nirosha, you cannot send passwords, you cannot send CVV numbers, kind of stuff, never be with a get. But if you're searching something, because searching cannot be hacked, right? So if you're searching for mobile and somebody's hack it, you're searching for mobile. So it cannot take anything. Makes sense. But if somebody see your password, then there is a problem. If somebody see your CV number, then there is a problem. I hope everyone understands this. Now the point is, because Satish is also asking about the thing, that is, if I do right click and inspect it. So the point is, Satish, who is going to do right click and inspect it? Is by you. So password is entered by whom? Is by you. So if you are seeing it here on the network side, so you never expose your password by yourself. Makes sense. So that is a point. It means that's why it is not easily hackable. But because your get is easily hackable because it is a part on the URL. Make sense? I hope everyone understands. So Nirosha is saying we have to encrypt them in using post method. So Nirosha, the data which is going on a post method is actually inside some NLUp. So it use something called a body section. There they can add it, and you use something called HTTPS protocol. So if we use Express and we will put it on HTTPS, if you put it in an HTTPS, so it would be get secure automatically. Makes sense. But on the server side, because I have the fear of attackers on network, I do not have the fear of right click inspect, because even I am not going, because if I am using it, I am doing right click inspect as an end user, because I am on this website, I know the password why I do it, right? So HTTPS is secure, Nirosha, because Google is using it, Facebook is using, every payment is doing through HTTPS. Makes sense. So the point is, the point I just want to clear is where I do this encryption sort of things, where I can do this kind of stuff. That is what the point I want to highlight it, because security means something is handled by the developer. Think about it. In your database, I have the password. Suppose I have the huge bank balance and my password is 123. So suppose you are working in some company and you will just see the database and open it and you will get a password. So here I will encrypt it. Right? So it means whatever the things I am going to receive it from the client through HTTPS layer. So HTTPS does what? It will go and using some networks, that is a secure networks, right? If I do, think about it, if I do encryption it here, let's say on a client side I do encryption. So for encryption I need a key. So I'm just encountering the question. I mean, if I have a key for encryption, because encryption cannot done by a key. So if you do the encryption on a client side, so any hacker, because it's on a client side, can understand this logic of encryption. Makes sense. I hope Nirosha, you understand this thing. So if you do encryption on a client side, your application will get hacked because it is get cracked by a hacker, because client side anyways pick up. So if you encrypt it and then you send it, so it is not guaranteed your encryption is working fine because somebody hack it. And provision is on a server side you need another key for decryption it. That's why we use something called HTTPS. We use something called some sort of utilities there, which is actually doing the security of it. And the point is, whenever I receive a password, I just kept this password on by using some encryption. So we'll use something called bcrypt library, which is doing this encryption, right? So the firewall, the proxy settings, the HTTPS, these kind of stuff will become on a network site to make it more secure. But I am not a great fan of client side encryption. So that's why I'm saying if you're doing a client side encryption, you will hack. Right. This is what I'm promoting. So I'm saying on a server side, you can do the encryption because it would get much more secure. I hope I answer your question. So moving back to the thing called, we have this, that is, we have form method post and we have the action login, and then we have this type user ID, then we have the type password, this kind of stuff. And now I want to send it to the server. So I want to send it to the server. So I will use something called name. That is the important point if you want to send it to the server. So the ID is on the client side and name for the server side. So I will use name equals to password, right? So input name equal to user ID, input name equals to password. So I have this user ID, I have the name equals to password, and now from here I want to submit it. So I just use break line again, and I will say button, and I'm saying button type submit. So I want to submit it, and this is what I have the login page. So the point to be clear, guys, that is you have something called this page, right? So you have this user ID and you have the password, and when you fill up this user ID, when you fill up this password, it will be go to, it means when I submit it, think about it, when I submit it, it will go to the /login. But it is saying this post is not there. So the point is I need to build a post there. So I just go to the app.js. That is the important point, guys. I use something called app.post. Make sense? And this app.post, I will say login. And this will give a callback. And this callback arguments are request and response. Its callback argument are request and response. So request has the request thing, response has the response thing. So I will say response.send. So it means I'm sending a response. So it is more like a console.log. But right now I'm writing where? I'm writing on the response. So it means when I'm writing on the response, it means I'm writing on the client side. So I'm saying login done. Let's say I just write this line. Make sense? Login done. So I just save it. And from here, I just go back and I just submit it, and you will see login done. But I need to check the user ID and password. Now the problem will start. If you want to check the user ID and password, the problem is the user ID password which is coming up in this form. So it means on a network, the data on post on this form, that is called URL encoded form, right? Your data will be go in a post in which form? In a URL encoded form. The URL encoded is the data will be go in like user ID equals to whatever the user ID name, let's say XYZ, ampersand password equal to whatever the password. So in this format, the data is stored in a post. So think about post is like a envelope, right? And your data is inside the envelope, right? Inside the envelope. That's why it is secure somehow. So if somebody is able to hack this envelope, so it can fetch the data. Make sense? I hope everyone understands this thing. Now the point is, I don't need this kind of data. I need something called object, because JavaScript work on the object. So I need to convert that. So the point is, I need to convert this data, which is in a URL encoded form, into the object form, right? So data will become on two form, either on this URL encoded form or either in the form of JSON, key and value form. Make sense? So either on this form or either on this form. So the point is, you need to convert, either it is coming a JSON or either it is coming in URL encoded form. You need to convert it into the object. So the question is how? So the conversion word, I can use a word called parsing. So it means I need to do the parsing of the data, because the conversion, using a word called conversion, I use a word called parsing. So for parsing, they have created a module. They have created a module called body parser. So there is a predefined middleware. I'm using a word called middleware they have, and that's why it is called minimalized, because it does not provide you everything. So they are saying you have the something called body parser. Just go there and install it. Just go there and install it. Then you have the body parser feature. I hope guys, everyone understand this thing. So I need to borrow the body parser, and I just inject it in my. So I need to just inject it in my middleware. Make sense? So how? So in Express, I need to inject this middleware in my Express. Now the question is how? So just go back to the npm. Makes sense? Just go to the npm site. I'm going to the npm.js, and from here I will say the thing called body parser. So body hyphen parser. That is a predefined body. So just go here. So it is saying it's a body parser middleware. So it is a predefined middleware that is provided. So just go here and click on npm install body parser. I just go here, Control C, clear and paste. Make sense? So now you have the body parser. Just go to the packet.json, see it here. You have Express, you have the body parser. So as we go more and more detail, I am going to keep installing so many modules. So Express we have, body parser we have. Now how to use a body parser? The answer is given by whom? The answer is given by this itself. NPM is giving this answer. So NPM is saying everything about the body parser. So it is saying whatever the body you have is coming up, you need to convert it, parsing it up it. So they have created this lot of bigger documentation for this. So they have created this documentation, and if you just go to this documentation section, so they will say use app.use and body parser dot URL encoded. So the point is, if I want to use this thing, so after this, before login, because login is going to use something called request dot body, because the data is coming in inside what? Inside the envelope. Envelope is called body. So I use something called app.use, and I need something called body parser. So I will say const body parser equals to require body parser. So I use the body parser, and I will say body parser dot URL encoded. I use something this thing, and I am also saying if the URL encoded can have the binary form of data. So I don't want to receive any binary kind of data. So I just say extended false. Makes sense? So I use body parser dot URL encoded. So I'm saying I want to use the encoded form. That's the first form I can have, and for the futuristic purpose, because when we connect with a React is going to give a JSON. Remember this thing. React is going to give a JSON. It is not going to give this encoded form. So for a futuristic purpose, right now it is not required at all, but for futuristic purpose, I will say .json. So either the data is coming in a URL encoded form, either it is coming in a JSON form, I will kept it. If I kept it, so the data will be received here. So I will receive user ID. How I will receive? I will write request dot body dot user ID. So this dot user ID, it must be the same name which I specified here. So this name is user ID, so I specified this name. I hope guys this makes sense. Now I will say let password request dot body dot password. So I have this user ID, I have the password. Now the point is I do not learn database yet. So we have not learned the database. So we are going to learn later on. So practically we are going to authenticate by comparing the value on a database. Right now we do not have the option of the database. Because we do not have the option of the database, so I will say if user ID equals to password, if I say this word, so it is just a fake code, because right now I do not have the database. So in our upcoming classes we connect with the database, but the point to be remembered is we know how to collect the values, that is important, but how to check with the database, that is a black box right now. So that's why I just use if user ID equal to password. It means if the user ID is Amit, password is Amit, then I will say it is a correct. If user ID is Amit and password is Ram, it is not correct, right? So this is just an assumption code I created right now and else, right? And here I simply say response dot send welcome, and welcome whom? Welcome user ID. Else response dot send invalid user ID or password. I hope guys this thing is clear. So far now we are going to test this thing here. I just go in localhost, but the first thing is I need to do npm start. So I just go, just a minute. What is it missing? It is saying response. Okay. response.json, this bracket is missing, guys. Right, so I just do Control C, clear, npm start. So now my server is running. Because my server is running, just go back here, and from here I will say localhost 1234, login page is there. I will say Amit, password is Amit, right? Password right now is display. Login it. Why it is saying invalid? Why it is saying invalid is coming up? Just a minute. It is saying password. I need to just check it out. The name is PWD, right? So that's why it is coming undefined, and Amit and undefined cannot be compared. So just go to the localhost 1234, login, and Amit and login it. It is saying welcome. If I type wrong password, it will say this, right? So it is checked out. Now in this login.html, just type something called password. So if I go back here, refresh it, login it, makes sense. If I do Amit, login it, I hope everyone understands this thing. This is a basic terminology we have understand right now. Any question, guys, so far? So please raise it. So for this particular section, we have done something called express basic stuff, and at a 2 o'clock, we are going to move in more detail of this. So it means we are going on that detail, how to move to a next page. I mean, if I log in successfully, how I will move to the next page. Right now, I'm not moving to the next page. I'm just sending you some hard-coded message. Right? How the new page will be get appear, how the session management will work. So a lot of stuff we are going to learn. How to send the JSON, how this is consumed by the React. So many stuff are there. So somebody's asked about the index.html. Index page is simple one. So now we have done for this. So till 1:30 we have the doubt session. So if you have any doubts, guys, so please raise your doubts. Nirusha is asking which request page you want to see this app.js. So Ritik, your question is entirely belongs to us right now to the database. Because on the database side, we can check is this user is already registered or not, right? So when we are going to create user stuff, so if user is already created or not, we will check it with the database. That's the first thing. If, for example, I just take another scenario, for example, if user is already registered and it is going to log in from 2 different machines. So how the server will distinguish? The answer is session management. So we'll do the session management for this. Yes, Jatin, you can ask your doubt regarding iTunes API assignment. Bhavya asking why do we have to pass the dynamic ID in? I think Bhavya, you are asking this thing. Welcome plus user ID.
जब हमने टिक टैक गेम का जो असाइनमेंट बनाया था, तो उसमें मैंने ना आईडीज डायनामिक करके पास करी थी. तो इनिशियली आई यूज्ड अ सिंगल कोड फॉर दैट, लेकिन वो सिंगल कोड में चला नहीं, बैकटिक से ही चला. तो सर बैकटिक क्यों सिंगल कोड से क्यों नहीं चला और बैकटिक से क्यों चला?
Because the thing is, जब आप यूज कर रहे हो backticks, so you can use dollar curly bracket for this. ठीक है? Because backtick has this dollar curly bracket syntax that is called string interpolation. But when you are using a single quote does not understand this dollar curly bracket, right? So you need to specify plus operator for this. Okay. So the dollar curly bracket only work with the backtick side. That is a string interpolation.
प्लस के साथ डायनामिक तो शायद नहीं जा पाएगा ना, अगर हम प्लस करके दे तो
जाएगा ना, जैसे वेलकम प्लस यूजर आईडी जा रहा है ना, आपको देखो
नहीं सर, वेलकम के अंदर ही, मतलब उसी के अंदर सिंगल वो करके अगर प्लस यूजर आईडी कर दे तो सिंगल ले लेगा ना, एक तो स्ट्रिंग ले लेगा ना.
It treats as a string. So that's why the syntax they have introduced in ECMA 6, that is a string interpolation. तो वहाँ आपको backtick with dollar use करना है, dollar का लेना है.
Sir, can you share the code for both the assignments so that we can check कि हमने मतलब हमारे में और quality वाले में क्या difference है?
ठीक है, I will share.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So yes, I will upload the code. So Nift is asking, do we have to install and create a separate server in each app in Express? No. This it is basically app. If you think about app is a one shopping application. So that is basically yes. The answer is I need to create a server for one application. Application means for me application is shopping is a one application. Social media is another application. So if you're serving two kind of application, then the recommendation is you are going to write two express things. But in a shopping, you are working on the user login registration, all these stuff. So it is a one application. So you need to use a one express for it, which can contain a lot of pages. I hope you understand. Nifty. Nirusha is asking how to know that user already exists. Answer is the database. So when we learn the database, we check from the database this user is already exist or not. Even we can check it this user is already logged in or not. Jatin is asking, I have the doubt the assignment I am able to play songs now. I want track name to be displayed along with the audio. There is a key for, but I am not unable to write track name. Okay. So can you share a code, Jatin? Either if you upload it on some Git, so can you share it so I can just check? Satish is asking, do we merge React.js and Express.js in a single project? So we have both of the option. I will complete both of them. I mean separate projects or in a single project. Both of them option I will cover. So if you are working as a whole soul developer, I mean you are managing both of them. So the choice is you can put it React thing in a public folder. But how we will see. Or if you are working with some other front-end developers, for example, you are handling the back-end stuff and front-end developers working on some other machine, then the choice is to work in a separate fashion. Most of the companies are working like this. They have two different separate projects. Two different developers are working. So parallel development will be going on. Okay, Jatin. So you will share the code. Either you can share it with Kajal ma'am on WhatsApp group. So she can help you on this also. Any other doubts, guys? How does the front-end page shows index.html? The public folder also contain logic. So it is linked to index. I think you are asking in context of the React. You are asking, or you are just asking just a plain HTML thing. So how does the in Express? Okay. So how does the front page shows index.html? The point is Express by default, or even plenty of servers only understand the index.html. So if you're going to create any website and you are going to host it on a GoDaddy server by default serve the index.html. That's a wholesale rule of most of the servers. They understand the first file is the index.html, right? So if you don't want the first file would be the index.html, so you just go to the packet.json. There you can specify the start file would not be index.html. You can specify any other file name. Makes sense? So by default, the rule is the index.html. That's why I use the index.html, because Express by default going to serve the index.html. Now the point is how it is going to be linked with a login.html. It is through an hyperlink which I have created a tag. So through a tag, it will be going to open the login.html. Make sense?